You gonna play some music?
Oh, it's not live. I've been playing the music. All right, hang on. Let's reverse this. All right, here we go. Live.
Welcome to the Smart and Snark podcast, where real software engineers and real software managers discuss real software. As always, I am myopic middle manager Jason Ellison, whose role is to look good in front of upper management. I manage a team of software engineers at a little startup called FeatureBase. I've been managing engineering teams at various companies since I won my management certificate at my local bingo game. On this podcast, I have my ever loud chewing partner, Mr. Matt Jaffe. He is a world-renowned snackologist. His role here is to try to educate us all on the value of snacks and ultimately which ones are the best. Matt, let me hand this off to you so you can try and pretend to tell a funny joke.
Smoked barbecue corn. Delicious and loud enough to mute your annoying co-host.
At FeatureBase, we develop database software. On this podcast, as you all know, we discuss a number of titillating topics, notwithstanding all things related to software engineering, technology, and how beautiful managers are. So this is season 0, episode 6, titled, Please Do One-on-Ones. They're important.
Are they tintillating?
They are absolutely tintillating.
Tintillating. What is that like when you get your windows tinted?
Yes, that's exactly what it's like. Now, normally I like to try to have some shenanigans in these podcasts. I've been learning that Matt's not really funny, or I'm sorry, Jaffe is not really funny. So we're going to skip a little bit of that today, but we are going to talk about one important pre-podcast topic, which is the level of snobbery that Jaffe is. So I received some feedback, kind of like you would on a one-on-one about, what was it? I sound like crap. So on the podcast, so I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. How can I fix this for you? And he said, well, you need to go spend money. Apparently money will solve my problem. So that's what I did. I bought what is known as a Blue Yeti cooler or something like that, a Blue Yeti device. What they don't tell you about a Blue Yeti device is this is what they are. It's not small. I can do curls with them, and it is very, very large. Now I have
Jason.
Yes, sir.
It's a side address microphone. You don't talk into the top of it. There's a little picture right on the freaking thing that when you open it up shows you not. It's like got a big X over it. It's like, don't shout into the top of this microphone.
I don't know what I'm doing with it. Look, all I know is you made me get it. I originally had a nice little Jabra puck that's been good for me for about 10 years. And now apparently I need the Blue Yeti. So, Mr. Matt Jaffe, we're going to go find out on the fly here. So right now I am speaking into the Blue Yeti. And I am going to, with this gorgeous software. Oh, it doesn't let me change on the fly. This, whatever podcast software, like when we've been through 3, you have just ruined my shtick because I can't change it while we're in the middle.
What? I bet you I can pause and restart the recording.
No, because you'll mess it up. And this has been a really good intro for me. And it just shows how great I am compared to you. Fine.
All right, well, let's get into some content. It's been 5 minutes, and I think our viewers are probably eager to hear something useful.
Well, then I should probably talk a lot then. So, all right, one-on-ones. So why are one-on-ones needed? Why should you do them? So one-on-ones are critical to the health of the individual and the team. Let's talk about that. So the health of the individual comes off many different ways. It can come off short-term. It can come off long-term. It can come off what they're working on, what they're not working on. So ultimately, if you don't meet with them on a regular basis, you really don't know what's going on with their head. Now, if things aren't going well with a member of the team, you want to be able to course correct or pivot. And that can manifest in many different ways. But the worst thing you can do is not understand individuals on the team, because ultimately, if you want a high-performing team, each individual plays a role in that success. Any questions before we get started?
So are you gonna one-on-one me? Is that what we're doing?
I was told that that yes, you are qualified enough to partake in my one-on-ones. I may need to, bring the level of intelligence down a little bit, for an astrophysicist like yourself. But I will do my best.
Cool. Yeah, I'll give you a rating at the end. Since I
You're
kind
going
of
to give me.
graduated, since I graduated from management, I feel like I'll let you know how well you did.
All right. Now the first thing when anybody ever tells you that one-on-ones take too much time, they don't. So this is going to be what I call my first one-on-one, which means I have to explain what the one-on-one is to Jaffe and actually do the one-on-one. And I bet I can get it done in less than 12 minutes. That's my guess. Here we go. All right, Matt. Thank you or Jaffe. Thank you for our first one-on-one. I'm really grateful that that we hired you. I was against it in the beginning, but ultimately we decided to hire you, and thank you. We're going to meet on a regular basis in all seriousness for our one-on-ones. We're going to ask you, we're going to talk about basically 4 questions. And for the most part, they're the same 4 questions each week. I'm not going to be asking you the same exact 4 questions, but they're all going to revolve around the same topic. The 4 questions are you happy? How can I make it better? What do you want to learn next? And where do you see yourself in 2 years? Now, I'm not going to ask you every week, where do you see yourself in 2 years? But ultimately, what we're trying to talk about is making sure that your trajectory professionally is aligned with company objectives. I believe I'm successful when you see yourself growing, and I can align what you want to do with what the company needs. So if you want to go work on security and you want to go be a security expert, then what I can do is I can try to find security stories or security work that will help align with that objective. Now, if you say that you want to go stare at the stars on a top of a hill through some sort of gyroscope or something, right? Like that's not something I'm going to be able to help with. I can try, but ultimately, something like looking into the sky and doing astrology is not something that the company of Featurebase does. And then the aspects of happiness. In all seriousness, my wife gave me an article, and this has to have been at least a decade ago, and it was you spend a third of your waking life at work. And how I've kind of internalized that is, go be happy, right? And chances are, if you're an employee who wants to go to work and enjoys what they do, you're probably going to do a good job. And the flip side of that is if you aren't happy and you don't enjoy your job and you don't want to go to work, chances are you're not going to do a good job. So each week we're just going to kind of talk about where you're at. And, if I can play a positive role in making you happy, I believe that's only going to serve in the best interest of you, which will ultimately serve in the best interest of the team. There's a 99, actually for you, Mr. Jaffe, there's probably a 98% chance that you're not going to retire here at Featurebase. So I can't control when you're going to leave. But what I like to try to control is the story you tell when you do leave. One story that you can tell when you leave is, Featurebase, horrible company. They made me do things I didn't want to do, and my boss is a jerk. Or the other story is, Featurebase, the company tried to support me, tried to get me involved in the things that I wanted to work on. I felt supported, but ultimately it wasn't the right fit. So if I'm lucky throughout this process, you'll be able to tell the story in the second part. Does all of that kind of makes sense? Am I sounding like an idiot? What do you think?
Yeah, no, but you've only got 9 minutes left, and I haven't said a word, so I'm not sure. Not sure this is going to be a productive one-on-one, Jason.
Well, at least you can. I think you did a pretty good job of an estimation there. You should probably sock that one away as a win for you. All right, so let's get started. So, this is the first time, Jaffe. Are you happy?
In this moment, or with my job?
In general, I mean, happiness manifests, in a moment. It manifests in general. It depends on how you reflect. Kind of, how are you? Are you happy?
Yes. Yeah, I am.
That's awesome. Why? Why are you happy?
Well, um, I'm working on interesting technology with, for the most part, interesting and intelligent people. And uh, I guess everything is the incentives are aligned, right? My success will be the company's success, and I feel like we're kind of all going the same direction. So it's easy to be happy. I guess I should add, um, I feel like we have, reasonable health care and compensation and all these things. So I'm not like worried about, um, you know, feeding my family or anything like that, which helps with the overall happiness equation.
Awesome. What can I do to make it better? How can I make your every day at FeatureBase better?
Um, it's a good question. I mean, nothing springs immediately to mind because I would have already complained. Um, but I think it's definitely worth it for people to spend some time reflecting on this occasionally, right? Like, yeah, things are okay, but what what could be better? Like, come up with some things that annoy you throughout the day or whatever. Like, Jason's audio quality is so bad. I wish he would get a better microphone. Could be a small thing like that, or could be like, wow, I am really tired of waiting for CI for my test to pass, so that I can actually get some work done. And that's a problem that's probably worth putting some time into solving because it's probably slowing everyone down.
That's excellent feedback. So if I asked you, what do you want to learn next? Is CI an area that you think you would be interested in growing in an area where you can help, help drive the success of the company? What are your thoughts there?
Um, my thoughts were I was really hoping somebody else would fix it. Um, but I just want to step out of the frame for a moment to kind of mention that, like as a manager, the goal, one of the goals of one-on-ones is it's not just about the employee, but it's about looking for trends and kind of collating the different things you hear to see if there's a broader issue at hand. Because one of your biggest jobs is to prevent the company from being blindsided, by an issue that was sort of latent or festering. And so if you can start by talking to people, not everybody's always going to give you the full picture, right? And it depends on how good a relationship you have with your employees. But by talking to everyone every week, you can. It's like one of those telescopes that's made up of multiple little dishes that are scattered all over the place, and by sort of combining the picture, from all these different perspectives, you can build up a greater picture of the whole and have a really good pulse on how your team is doing and if there's any festering issues that are going to blindside the organization.
So what I'm hearing is, and I'm sorry, please.
Oh yeah, so I say that to sort of dodge the question, because I don't think anybody wants to hear me complain about CI anymore.
No worries. So CI is not your love of your life. That's not not hard to believe. So I want to ask you, what do you want to learn next? Clearly, it's not CI. Then what is it?
So I'll give a real answer to this question. I've been following what's going on with these large language models and like ChatGPT and GPT-4, and this stuff is getting seriously impressive. I'm pretty skeptical when it comes to tech stuff. Don't get me started on crypto because that pile of nonsense, man, makes me so angry. But I think these large language models are the real deal, and I want to at least mess around with some of the coding assistants and stuff that are coming out because I think there's a lot of promise in this area.
So when you think about large language models, where would be a place that that you could start? What would be like the smallest bite that you could take of the apple to, something that was small, measurable, discrete that you could jump into?
Uh, I think there's some there's a company called SourceGraph that has a thing in beta that plugs into um, like VS Code or an editor, and um, you can basically interact with it to help understand your code or understand, like, I think it'll like help you write unit tests and that kind of thing. Um, so I'm gonna try and get it on that and see how that thing works.
How long do you think that would take to do? Like just like the first, bringing it up, hello world, getting started. How many hours do you think that would take?
Oh, I don't think it'll take long to get it going. Less than an hour.
So what if I block off a meeting for the two of us on Monday and use that time?
Well, I gotta get into the beta first, so I don't know when that invite's gonna come through.
Fair enough, but it does sound interesting, and that's it sounds like an area if FeatureBase, the company, if our company had more uh, domain experience in that space, it could help any company understand how MLAI can work in service to company initiatives, company
Well,
goals.
yeah, it's worth noting we do have a decent amount of domain experience in that space. I don't, but someone like Cord, who's our chief community officer, messes around with these models a lot and has been doing it for a long time. And if you join the feature based Discord, there's a bot that's powered by an LLM. So I think we do have people to consort with. If this is something I want to spend more time on.
So if you didn't get into the beta, what would be next?
Um, well, going down this line, I mean, I've got a little tab folder full of like videos to watch and
So what
papers to
could you get
read.
done Monday? What could you get done Monday in 2 hours of time? What boxes could you check?
Um, I think there's like a 2 hour YouTube video explaining the basics of LLMs that I could power through.
Do you prefer AM or PM to watch YouTube videos?
Um, PM, I
So
guess.
I'll put the meeting on the calendar. I'm not telling you what to do, but try to help you out. Reserve some time on your full schedule to, try to make some progress on that. Because honestly, I didn't talk about this in the intro, but I believe that if people see their progression, like if you can feel your professional growth and you can take a point in time when you started a company and you can see how you've grown. I like saging every day, but if you set milestones for yourself and achieve those, like that feels good. It feels good, like because you don't have control over so much with respect to a company, but you do have control about your accomplishments and the things that you do. So, the first step in learning about large language models is to start learning about large language models. So, I'm gonna go ahead and put that 2 hours on your calendar and roll the dice, little Monte Cristo there, and see what happens. Um, I know the answer to the next question is where do you see
Well,
yourself in?
hang on. Actually, I'm curious now. It, for your direct reports, do you like kind of keep notes on when they hit milestones and what they're doing, so you can go back and remind them, like, hey, 2 years ago you didn't know anything about X, and now you've done X, Y, and Z, and blah blah blah.
So I'm a big fan of accountability, right, and commitment, and that doesn't mean about like winning or failure. It means about if you say you're going to do something, go try and do it, right? Really, just go and try, and you'll see what happens. You'll see what happens. So when we were leveraging 15.5, it's a really nice little utility to put in goals and measure against them. At FeatureBase, 10% of the time is used for professional growth. So let's frame that, right? Like let's make that accountable. And sometimes I find with engineers in general that they think things are too big. So you saw me open with, what is the smallest bite of the apple? What is something hopefully is less than, it's 4 hours or less is what I'm targeting, right? Something that's easy and simple. And you take that first step and you start walking toward, my spiel is usually, don't worry about if you're walking perfectly in a straight line. You can take a little bit to the left. You can take it right. You can even go in a different direction. But in my opinion, the worst thing you can do is not step, to not, strive and aspire, and try. And maybe what you'll do is halfway down the road, you'll learn you don't care about large language. Would you call them large language models or whatever that smart
Yeah.
stuff is? Maybe you learn that you want to get into management and, micromanage, halfway smart engineers. That's a pretty cool thing too. But the point is that, it all goes around like happiness. And if people are happy, they are good. I can't remember the last time someone was happy and not a good teammate and not putting in a good day's work. So if I can focus on that, if that's the minimum bar I can get, and I can get that through them seeing the professional growth and seeing them grow. And, in my opinion, the greatest asset to a company is its people, right? In my opinion, right? So if I can get a high performing team, they can do anything, and they will work on your behalf. And that's the nights and the weekends, and they'll do it thankfully, because they believe in you investing in them in their career. Anyway, sorry, long-winded answer there.
Yeah, I think my favorite point in there is don't necessarily worry too much if you're going the right direction. Just make sure you're moving, because if you're doing stuff and learning stuff and gaining experience, you can start to figure out the direction. But if you're standing still, you're not doing anything.
So the final question is, where do you see yourself in 2 years? I know the answer of where you see yourself in 5 years, and that's walking on the beach hand in hand with your Chat GPT. But what about 2 years? Where do you see yourself in 2 years?
2 years. Well, let's see. Our serverless solution will be deployed. It'll be a smashing success.
Point of contention. Okay. It will not be 2 years. Whomever feature base is listening, look, we talked about this literally last podcast. Okay. Our estimate is not 2 years. I want to be unequivocally clear, and I'm hesitant to actually state the date, but you know what the date is. Not 2 years.
It will have been deployed for some time. Can we use the perfect tense?
Maybe 20 some months.
Sure. And it'll be a smashing success. We'll have thousands, if not millions, of users. People will be blown away by the performance and scalability and blah, blah, blah. And what's next after that? We're probably plugging large language models into our query system to make it easier to write queries and we could use a large language model in the query optimizer too. We can use LLMs everywhere. They're just going to be all over the place.
All your LLMs belong to us. So, in all seriousness, so what can I do as your pretend manager on this call? What can I do tomorrow to help ensure serverless is delivered in the time frame you want it delivered in?
We should probably stop blocking off 4 hours to record podcast episodes.
That was my estimate. You're kind of long-winded at times. So,
no, it's nice to unwind a little bit, and I'm worthless in the afternoons anyway. Just let that one lie.
You said you wanted to do the YouTube videos in the PM, and I wrote that down. So now I'm reconsidering. Maybe AM is better for you.
No, AM is when I actually get work done. What was the question? Oh, what can you do?
What can I do? What can I do tomorrow? And tomorrow being Monday, mind you. What can I do tomorrow to be your, sorry, my word. What can I do to be your partner, your teammate in helping deliver serverless on time?
I think just staying on top of what's going on in stand-ups and making sure people are focused on the right things, and we just gotta stay focused on the things that are most blocking for getting that capability out, and I think we'll be just fine.
So what I'm hearing you say, actually what I'm not hearing you say, is there's no significant risks, nothing that needs burning down or investigation. It sounds like I will be successful when I keep keep the context switching and the pivoting away and keeping you away from fires. All of the great Phoenix Project book. So,
Yeah, we spent an hour this morning kind of planning out some of the metering work and the auto scaling stuff, and we got tickets, and I don't think there's any huge risks in there. There's a few little unknowns, but nothing catastrophic.
Estimates in the tickets?
There's no estimates. They haven't been groomed. They've just been written.
Well, if it comes to grooming and you're in charge of it, it looks like it's going to be a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, you got it finally. You got it. That you're not a good individual to be in charge of grooming.
I definitely never claimed that.
So that's the one-on-one. Thank you. To recap, you asked something that I wanted to follow back on. I missed the 12 minutes because you meandered. I don't even know where you were going looking for a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or something.
Yeah, it's been 20. So yeah.
So, but point is, you asked something in there that I wanted to kind of circle back on, which is you said something like, "Do you do this with every engineer?" I do. I do it with every direct report. I hear a lot from other managers that wow, it takes so much time. It really doesn't. Like I had to listen to you ramble for a long time, and it still only took us 20 minutes. I block off 30 minutes every week for every engineer, and I'm gonna get. So what I got from you. You want to hear your assessment? You want to hear your honest to goodness assessment?
Yeah, sure.
My assessment of you in the 20 minutes we spoke for the first time in a one-on-one is you are an A player who doesn't have enough on their plate. That you need to be given more challenging tasks to jump into and get at, because you're not fearing anything today. You're not fearing one thing. I would say that you need to be challenged. I would say that you don't want engineers living in fear, but you want them to be like jazzed. And maybe it's the trope where you don't convey urgency in the way you talk because you're calm, cool, and collected. This was our first one-on-one, but that's my honest assessment, is that, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, let me tell you exactly what we have to get done, and this is when it needs to get done by. And yeah, and this is that, and this is that. It was like, yeah, well, we're gonna, this is all gonna be done, and this is gonna be great. Clearly, you're good under pressure. You weren't fazed by anything, and yeah, that's what I got. I called you an A player. I can't believe I said that out loud.
So, I actually appreciate that assessment. I think if you spend too much time fighting fires for too long, you kind of get into this mindset where if you're not fighting fires, like it's hard to get the adrenaline turned up enough to like be excited about things or worried about things or whatever. Like what? It's not actively exploding. Like what's the problem, man? And that's something I've talked about with Pat before too, is when I've had to transition from like firefighting to like normal day-to-day tasks, that can be very rocky, just because it's hard to get your motivation up to a normal level when there's not impending doom crashing down on you.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. I talked about the book Phoenix Project earlier. I love it. If there's any like new managers and like how do you navigate adversity and challenges, so like you just basically explained the challenges of having people working on the future having to be in the support role. I think that's one of the biggest things that is hard, because companies, this is going to come out wrong, right? But companies are greedy, right? Companies want what they want when they want it. It's hard to have long-term thinking in software. It's hard because you can have a great engineer who can solve a problem quickly, or you can take a little bit longer and cross-train someone else so they can be more involved in the future. Cross-training is critical. You have to do it because Superman doesn't exist, or Superwoman. They don't exist. They're not going to save every company from every problem. You have to invest in the team, and you need a healthy team. And if someone feels that, hey, I'm only working on this or I'm only working on that, right? Like that's a problem to solve, because if you are working on customer support that in theory, let's say a junior engineer could be doing, then that is opportunity cost lost. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
All right. So, any other questions? Any feedback on my one-on-one? You want to tell me how great it was, and you're just so moved that you are going to request weekly one-on-ones with me just for fun?
Um, no, I actually, I have been trying to, I'm kind of thinking through back when I was doing one-on-ones and what, what I tried to make sure I hit on. Um, and I think the last thing was asking for feedback, for me as a manager, um, which is always, it's a really hard thing to do. Yeah, you're hilarious. There's a mute button, on that fancy microphone.
Dots pretzels, much better than that corn stuff you're eating.
All right, yeah. Listen, if Dots or Love Corn want to sponsor the podcast, feel free to shoot us over, a case of your product.
I'm picking on you. Please continue.
Um, I don't remember what I was saying. Probably not important. One thing I did do that I thought was really effective was I had a slot for a rotating question. So every time a new one-on-one came around, I'd have a new question that I'd send out ahead of time, and it would be something pretty hardcore. It'd be like 6 months from now, you've decided to leave the company and move to another job. What would have made you make that decision? And try to dig into something like that. And I found that was actually pretty effective at like uncovering things that people were unhappy with or angsty about or whatever.
I'm going to write that down.
You should. Yeah.
And then crumble it up and throw it in the trash. All right, Jaffe, thank you so much for putting up with my one-on-one talk. To all managers out there, please consider them. Please don't think they take too much time. You will be rewarded in the long term with how your engineers respond to you, in my opinion. Jaffe, any parting thoughts?
Well, as always, if there's any questions or feedback or criticisms, please reach out to us for a one-on-one at Twitter at SmartSnarkcast, YouTube, Smart and Snark, Gmail, smartandsnark@gmail.com, and anywhere else you can get a hold of us. It's been a pleasure.
Ciao.